All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome. This is the Mow Money, Mow Problems Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Foreman. With us today for the very first podcast. Hopefully, they get better over time. I have with us Cameron Gaskin-Aukett. He is with From the Ground Up Landscape Design in Seminole, Florida. Cameron, I've known you for a while. Super happy to have you on here. I very much appreciate you. So what we're going to do, and this podcast is hopefully going to continue to grow, but what we're going to be talking about is just Cameron's journey in the green industry, some of the things that he's learned because he is a veteran here. And we're just going to be having a discussion, going through the ups, the downs, the in-betweens, and then just kind of hear about his growth story in that. So with that, Cameron, thank you for joining.
Absolutely.
So tell me a bit about From the Ground Up Landscape Design. What do you currently offer?
Oh man, offer right now or off what did I used to offer?
It's a great question. We'll probably expand on that, but offer just at the moment. Like currently, what are your preferred jobs?
Yeah, so right now we are a full landscape design company. What we try to tell everyone is we can handle anything you can see outside your house. So that's going to be everything from pavers to irrigation, tree work. We'll do the drainage for you. We want to touch legitimately everything. Our job is to be a one-stop shop. So that means if you need a pool made, if you need a pergola put in, if you need outdoor lighting, or if you want your backyard to look like Pinterest, that's what we can do for you.
That's awesome. I know that's pretty much where everybody starts is Pinterest. So that's kind of perfect. That's actually a great pitch.
It's crazy. Pinterest actually used to be the bane of my existence. Now I'm like, hey, bring every bit of Pinterest you can bring to me. That way I can get some sort of an idea and see how we can twist this, to be like Florida native or Florida landscaping, not from Michigan.
Yeah, exactly. So you already brought it up. What did you used to offer versus offering now?
Man, long while back, about 8 years back, I used to just be bare basics. Very new to the industry, trying to figure out what we could handle, what we couldn't handle. It used to just be bare bones, man. You're talking about installing some sod, maybe a little irrigation work here and there. Doing the bare necessities, some mulch, some rock. Nothing super crazy. We did lawn maintenance way back when as well. Just anything and everything that could bring in some sort of capital to kind of help my family grow and help keep us in a house. It's kind of what we did. God bless has that changed, man. Super, super excited to where we're going now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So with your early days, you said you were doing lawn maintenance. Was that just mowing lawns like monthly? Like how was that working for you? Like how did you get into that and then upgrade so far into full landscape design?
Yeah, great question. Anyone in the mowing industry knows that it is a very cutthroat world. It is or can be relatively hard to make any sort of actual capital in that. And it's all encompassing, man. You have a client who calls you at 8 o'clock at night. Hey, I have a big old shindig to mow in my backyard and you guys didn't mow. And you know that you sent the guys there and you know that they showed up. But what did they do? It becomes a lot. It becomes a lot mentally, and it's really hard to maintain any sort of social life outside of that, or even, I have small kids, man, so it's hard to figure out what that's going to look like for them. Very glad that we pivoted from there. The lawns definitely brought in the income, and it definitely helped kind of maintain me for a while, and that actually led to more landscape jobs to start with. And I actually still do landscape jobs for my old lawn clients.
Cool.
But, super blessed that I no longer have to mow lawns. Anyone who does that, God bless them. They are definitely in the trenches.
Yeah, it is tough. Like lawn maintenance is definitely tough, especially when you're competing with every person that has a truck and a lawnmower, or even the neighborhood kid down the block. So I can definitely see where those challenges lie, especially when your only loyalty with somebody is mowing their lawn, which is not really the stickiest thing sometimes. So
that was the hardest thing for me, especially this time of year when all the mowing slows down, that you've been mowing them for 10 months. And then the last 2 months, it's like, hey, sayonara, it was nice seeing you. I'll pick you back up when the grass starts to grow again. Or worst case scenario, you have all of these people who, kind of get some income money back. And it's like, hey, Neighbor down the way has got a big old mower now. He told me he'd do it for $15 instead of your 35. What are we gonna do? Can we cut costs? And I'm like, ma'am, you're the nicest woman I've ever met, but I pay myself more than $15 a cut. So just trying to figure out how I'm going to be able to still do this for you.
Yeah, that's always tough. I mean, obviously the quality shows versus a kid in the neighborhood versus a full scale team, but sometimes people just don't understand the consistency, the trustworthiness, and just getting it done right. So that's always got to be a tough one versus where you're at now. Obviously, you're not going to be hiring the kid down the street to do a full landscape gut job. You want to hire the professionals. So full disclosure too, Cameron actually did my backyard. I live in paradise now, and so it looks amazing. So I can definitely vouch for him. I will be a testimonial to him there. But with that, so you transition from basically doing these smaller jobs to like these really grand things. How did you get into design? Because I mean, you went from being pretty physical, like high physical labor. I don't want to say monotonous, but I mean, they're like the learning curve is not that great versus now you're doing landscape design jobs, which is like, it's tough. I mean, I know, and I've watched you firsthand. You take a look at a job and you can visualize it. I can either put it on pen and paper or put it in a CAD design, whatever it is. How did you make that leap? Because that seems like a big leap to go from lawn maintenance to, man, I'm a rock star designer.
Yeah. Oh, man, great question. And actually, most times it becomes relatively difficult to try to explain it. Because our industry is so cutthroat, my first thought was, how do I stand above my competition? How do I make sure that I'm not just another Joe Schmo who comes out and says, yeah, we can throw some crow-ins in and, you know, throw some palms here and it'll be the tropical paradise. So my first thought was, how do I elevate myself and elevate this company? So I did two things. I went back to school and got a horticultural degree, which sounds super crazy. Honestly, it's one of the easiest things I ever did. If you love what you do, it's never actually like work, right?
For sure.
So the degree definitely set me apart. And honestly, it allowed me to meet so many professionals in my industry already. That's been my second best help, man. I relied on people who knew more than me, say in the area of irrigation or in the area of soil treatment and amendments, all the way down to what's the best grass for the best area and why does it do well. That way now when people have questions, instead of being like, you know what, I'll have to go ask someone. Now it's like, hey, hold on. How long do you have? Because I'm going to give you a 30-minute lecture on the horticulturalness of everything you just asked me, right? So definitely relying on the other professionals who have already been in the industry, who are within my realm, who don't compete with me because I don't believe in competition, but who are just doing it a bit better and a bit more, faster, stronger, as like their actual job, rather than me trying to just wing it and be like, hey, I'll learn by fire. Trial by fire is not it in this industry. Absolutely not.
Yeah, no, especially with these high ticket items. I mean, especially most of them being in 5 figures and up. So yeah, this is, and like with what you were saying is when you want to explain the nuances, the horticultural part of it, it does show your expertise, and it honestly puts people at ease that are going to make a huge financial decision to know that, like, yeah, you actually know what you're talking about versus, hey, I'm going to plant some palm trees around that the fence over there. It's more of, this is my recommendation and here's why it's going to flow for everything that we're about to do here. So
and I honestly believe, man, that's like what's actually set us apart for the rest of our competition, is just kind of being that devil's advocate. 9 times out of 10 they say, well, customer knows best. Well, not in our industry. They don't know enough about sun and shade tolerant plants. They don't know enough about how bad their soil is. Do they live on the beach? Is there going to be a ton of salt? What does that look like? Do they have a pool? Do they have kids? Do they have dogs? And that's now what we're able to finally bring to the table. Is like, we have enough knowledge between myself and the rest of the staff who can finally figure out, like, hey, there is a reason why this is failing in this area. Let's uncover that. Let's tell you, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this again, but here's an alternative as to what we can put in this area so that you're not calling me back out and we're creating a ton of longevity for you.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that though, when people are putting in their suggestions. Do you ever cave on that and just do it and be like, hey, you're gonna hate what happens here? Or do you offer a bunch of recommendations and do your best to kind of push them away from what could potentially be a disastrous decision?
Man, yeah. 95% of the time, unless the customer is so gung-ho on a specific plant, you can help kind of guide them towards a different direction.
Sure.
9 times out of 10, it's not the plant itself, it's just the color or the bloom. And there's so many other, especially living in Florida, man, there's so many other plants that can give that to us. It becomes very easy to be like, hey, this won't work in your area, but here's 5 other plants that will bring the same color and the same bloom that will do so much better in this area. Now, God forbid, if they are super gung-ho on this very specific plant, I will tell them up front, hey, there is a chance that this dies. And I'm sorry that if that's the case, I will do our best to kind of amend what we need to in order to make sure it lives. But there is a chance that this will unfortunately suffer here. Just know that, because I want to make sure that I can warranty everything, and we can't warranty what we know for sure is going to fail to start.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, I absolutely get that. And it's, I mean, I went through the same thing. I'm like, man, I want palms everywhere. I want this and that. And like, I got to understand that, yeah, it isn't what I want. It's what's going to work best. And at the time, sure, it can be a gut check. Like, man, I wanted it this way, but he recommends it this way. But once you see the full picture, especially a year later, like once everything's starting to bloom and everything,
finally grow in.
This is, yeah, it's spectacular. So, with that, do you use CAD to like kind of show like what it could be, obviously prior to starting, and then what it could be at bloom and all that? Like what's your involvement with that as it relates to that client journey?
Absolutely love CAD design. Huge benefits of CAD design outside of just having a very basic diagram of, hey, this is what the landscape's going to look like. The CAD design that we have now, which has upgraded over the years, started from just a very simple, here's your outdoor project, here's a quick overlay of plants. It's all kind of two-dimensional. Man, now we can do everything from three-dimensional. We can turn it. We can show you what it's going to look like from a bird's eye view, 1,000 feet up, all the way down to like the microscopic portions of the project. We can show you where the beds are going to be in a radius of how that bed's going to be created, how much rock you're going to need within just one specific area. It's been huge, mostly for the larger ticket items, because those people know that if they spend a little bit more, they're going to get a lot more for their buck. And those projects become so detailed that my team needs to understand, like, hey, I'm going to go in this blind because I'm not the one who sold the project. I know nothing about this person's property. How do I make sure I do my job well? Yeah. Well, here you go. Here you go, John. Here's the CAD program we made up. Here's everything that they're expecting. Here's every spec, every blueprint. Here's exactly where you're going to put your edging, right? It's been night and day. Anyone who doesn't use a CAD program should 100% use it. If they want a great one, quick shout out to Structure Studios. It actually, especially if they're doing any work with pool builders or custom homes, it actually goes directly into theirs. It integrates seamlessly. So now they can sell a package and you 100% will just market yourself 3 times higher to those custom homes and those pool builders, man. Night and day. Absolutely.
That's awesome. So do you use that in like your proposal process? Like, are you sending out those designs? I'm sure if you do, obviously it would probably set you leaps and bounds ahead of people that are just either talking about it or even pen and paper.
Absolutely. Now we do end up at this point having to charge people for a CAD design. Unfortunately, I've been burned too many times, and you're like, hey, where's my design at? I'm like, well, listen, we do this because we 100% believe you're going to be going with us. Here's what we're going to do. It's going to cost you X amount of money. We will give this back to you if you go with us on the project. If not, this is a one-time fee. You can use this for anything else. We'll give you an unlimited amount of times that you can go ahead and edit this. But understand, we can't give it to you for free, because sometimes, man, we're spending 10, 15, 20 hours on a design, and then they just ghost us.
Yeah.
I will tell you, though, sold my largest residential job to date without a pool, without a pergola. We're talking artificial turf, pavers, very large backyard, but a ton of very intricate type of workings. That was a $120,000 job. She did not look anywhere else because I came with my computer. showed up with the CAD program, was like, you tell me what you don't like about this. Her mouth just dropped. She was in awe. She was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Where do I sign? I'm like, ma'am, I haven't even made you a proposal yet. She's like, that's fine. What is it? Give me a ballpark. I was like, $120,000. She's like, great, I'll sign right now. Where do I send the money?
That's awesome.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah. And I actually love the idea of no longer allowing free CAD designs. It's going to disqualify all the people that are just like tire kicking. And what do you charge for just the CAD design?
We actually charge per hour at this point.
Okay, so per hour spent on it?
Absolutely.
Oh, yep. Awesome. That's great. So yeah, I mean, that even further commits these people to you, but it also commits them to just the project in general. Exactly. And that's what you're really looking for. I mean, I'm sure you go throughout all the time, people calling you for the first time. Hey, I want to get a quote. And then once you tell them X amount of thousands of dollars, they're like, I wasn't ready for this. I need to go back and backtrack, and we need to start budgeting, blah, blah, blah. They think they're ready for a landscape design project, but I'm sure more times than not, they're really not ready. And so, yeah, you can't be giving a CAD design to those people. So yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. And you say the time spent on the CAD design though is and the amount charged is then put into the final bill, like is removed from the final cost, right?
Exactly. If you end up going with our company, our biggest job is to make sure we become advocates for you. And what better way than to give you your money towards the proposal? We're not giving your money back. It's going directly into that project. But that is a step above what the rest of these companies will do, where it's, hey, listen, it's $1,800 to do this design. You'll love the design, but it doesn't go back to your project. Now your project's another X amount of money on top of that. We're going to add it back in there just to give us, again, a little more incentive just to go with us over, Johnny Bahama down the way.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome, man. Okay. So you're in Florida. You are a lot luckier than a lot of lawn care landscaping companies up north when it comes to seasons. So that's not to say that you don't have seasons. What, if any, though, are your seasons? Like what is that range, and what does that slow season really mean to you? Like what really slows down and why?
Yeah. So wonderful question. When I first started, my slow season was essentially when the grass stopped. Now that we pivoted and are, we're no longer doing lawn maintenance and now we're just doing landscaping. My slow season is only, and I mean this in the nicest sense, it's only when the kids get out of school for that week long, and Thanksgiving is where we won't get any calls. And then probably honestly the month of December, we kind of generally slow down, which is beautiful, by the way. It allows us to have time with our families again.
Yeah.
We're able to have some time to kind of
recoup. Love that silver lining.
Yeah, man. I used to think of it like, oh no, how am I going to do X, Y, and Z? How am I going to pay bills? Now it's like, hey, listen, that trailer that we broke 3 months ago that we haven't fixed yet, now's the time.
Yeah.
Or, we have a shop, and, shops, ultimately get neglected. That's a nice word for putting what we have now. And it's like, hey, why don't we spend a few days reorganizing, kind of getting rent back up? Because come January, man, January 1, when the kids are finally getting back into school and they're like, hey, we're not going to have them for another, 6 months until school's out. It's go, go, go. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome. So with that being that your seasons are more social rather than weather related, how do you plan for those? I know, like, obviously that's a very optimistic approach, but you have bills you got to pay. You got salaries you got to pay. Those salaries don't really stop. The obligations don't really stop. So how do you plan ahead, just as a business owner to make sure that you're, one, covering costs, but two, maintaining a profitable company?
It used to be super difficult. I'll be honest. I'm a great landscaper. I'm a good visionary. Doing anything with finances is definitely the bottom of my list, man.
For sure.
I will tell you one of the biggest things that I found is if we budget for having a month or a dead month is what most people will call it at the end of the year, and we allow ourselves just $1,000 or $2,000, whatever your bottom line number is,
Mm-hmm.
and use that to ramp up your business within the first 11 months. That back half, that last month, that back half month doesn't mean a thing to you because you've already budgeted for it.
Yep.
Another thing that I've explained to my guys is that, hey, we're not going to lay you off. You're gonna keep your salary, but here's what I need out of you. I need you to clean the shop. I need you to fix the trailer. I need you to get things ready to roll again because January 1, man, we're hitting the ground running. And they understand that for the first 11 months, their job is to go, 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 go. And then at that last month, they're able to take some time to see their family. It just what I'm trying to get at is it allows them to have a sense of pride. It definitely pushes them to work a little bit harder. But at the end of the year, they're so grateful that they're able to spend, 3 to 4 weeks mostly with their family, where they're working half days instead of full days, or they're,
Mm-hmm.
having Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off.
Yeah.
That's been huge. So needless to say, we just plan for it the first 11 months. And this sounds super simple. You're literally selling one more job. That is our goal every month. We're going to sell one more job than we did last week or last month or last year. And that will cover our back end.
Awesome. So you briefly touched on it, but and this is going to be the question that a ton of other business owners are always looking for a strategy or an extra leg up on is what is your it's going to be around employment. What are your thoughts on the struggles that lawn care, landscaping, just green industry companies face as it relates to finding employees, retaining employees? Like, what are you ultimately looking for, and how do you retain the best employees that come through your door?
So a few things we started doing, man, is we would vet people off Indeed. We would pay for Indeed. Most people will do it free. We paid for Indeed, and we allowed these candidates to understand that this is not a job that you hop, from station to station or company to company. When you come in here, you're going to make a good living salary.
Yeah.
Here's what we need out of you. Here's very specific marks that we need out of you. We're going to make sure that there is a list that you need to follow and various specific parameters. And if you can't abide by that come your 90-day, unfortunately, this is a business and you're out. I could love you to death, but business is black and white and you're out. So having very strict standards, I thought would push a ton of people away. But instead, what it's done is it's kind of incite a lot of excitement between the guys that are coming in. It's like, hey, I know that Johnny is making $70,000. I know that I'm only making 60. How do I get to 70? So now we have conversations between the both of them. And it's like, well, Johnny has, a CDL license. But Johnny knows a little bit more about this specific area than me. Let me go and learn that real quick because I know that they will pay me as an incentive in order to do that. Most people unfortunately like to say, well, don't talk about the money at work. Don't go over here and talk about your salary because that's going to, incite a ton of problems between the guys. No, in fact, I'll be the first one to tell you, hey, the company is doing really well. I want to make sure that you continue to get paid really well. But here's how we're going to do it together, right? And that's allowed the guys who are working for us to understand like this is a family unit. The better the company doesn't mean the better that Cam does. It just means the better that we do. So now all of a sudden, instead of being like, man, Cam's making all this money because he's the owner and yada yada yada, now all of a sudden it's like, did from the ground up actually have a $300,000 month? Absolutely, they did. Boy, do I know that at the end of this year we're going to get a massive bonus. Like I'm so excited for that, right? What that also does, it allows these guys to understand that they have something to look forward to besides just having weekends and holidays paid and the whole 9 yards. They have something to look forward to at the end of the year that they can then bank their Disney trip on or their wedding ring on. I just had a gentleman last week go and buy a wedding ring for his wife off of a job that he did well done.
Yeah.
We made a ton of profit. We're like, hey man, here's profit sharing, off you go. So we've really tried to excite these guys in terms of not only money but also bringing a family atmosphere in an area where it can be somewhat competitive to keep these guys rolling. I also have always made sure that my guys don't have any previous priors. And that, again, is kind of known in the industry where they have, some sort of background. As crazy as it is, man, people are creatures of habit. And I 100% sure want to make sure that when a customer is paying $120,000 for a project, they are getting a $120,000 project with the most top-notch professionals possible.
Yeah. And that's awesome. And yeah, you got to, I mean, you got a lot of people that you have under your belt. So, I mean, your reputation's on the line, not just the company, which is obviously a part of it, but you, as the business owner. But that being said, there is the thing that's also on the line is your reputation in the good sense. So like, you can look at it like, man, you just helped somebody grow their relationship, help somebody get married. Like that's got to be such a good feeling as a business owner. It's like, man, obviously I don't want to take the wind out of that guy's sail that he did this, like he did the hard work, he saved the money, he got the ring. But if it wasn't for you, I mean, I'll beat on your drum all day and say, dude, congratulations. That's awesome. Like you're helping people like live like a really good life. And that's what it is when it comes to like hiring good quality employees. Is like, you want to know that, yeah, you obviously have that family mentality, but it's not just a like, hey, I'm going to stop here for a year while I get my reins about me and move on to a better career. It's like, no, this is and could be a very long sustaining career that is very lucrative, very rewarding. And then not only that, the camaraderie that comes with that, I mean, that just can't be replicated. So that's awesome, man. And kudos to you. I know that it's probably the biggest struggle in the industry right now is recruiting and maintaining those high quality employees. So I think you're doing a freaking awesome job, man. So yeah, just to wrap it up. So what I want to do, and again, this is the first podcast, so hopefully we get better at this, but I really want to ask what kind of advice you would have, if any, just maybe like one, possibly two tips that you would say to somebody that's just starting out. They just made the realization like, hey, I know I'm a hard worker, I can get into this. They're probably starting in a very similar fashion that you started in. What would you say to them to get them from competing with every other chuck in the truck to actually standing out, building route density, or actually commanding 5-figure jobs?
Yeah, man, I could talk about this. I'm glad you said 2 points. I could talk about this for the next hour if you let me. Honestly, two big things that stick out to me. The first thing is going to be I went directly to my suppliers. I understand that most people in this industry, and it could be wrong, somewhere up north, but at least here in Florida, most people who are going to work out or work for themselves have already worked for another landscape company beforehand. And they already have connections with that other landscape company. And the connections that I'm talking about are all your other suppliers. So we need to think big picture here. I went to every one of my suppliers and I said, hey, I am starting something new. It's going to be, just through me. I'm not taking anything away from my last company. By all means, I know you guys have, your referrals and whatnot that are going through them. But if anything slips through the crack, please let me be the first one there. I will make sure that you guys continue to get all of my business because I love you guys as people and I 100% will stand behind your company. But if you have anything, by all means, please allow me to kind of be the first one who gets a nab at it. And I promise you that, it'll be a hand feeding a hand. We have a company that supplies my sod here in Florida that actually does landscaping and lawn maintenance along with it. And for the longest time, my ideology was like, hey, these people are my competitors. Turns out this was my largest and still is my largest referral partner because they have a minimum, right? And their minimum for them is somewhere between $2,000 to $3,000. Where my minimum when I first started out was like $500, right?
Yeah.
So for them, it was, we can't touch this project, but let me send it over to Cam, knowing that he'll come back and buy the sod from us.
That's awesome.
The second one, man, that has been really big for me is joining a networking group. As crazy as this sounds, I was the largest proponent of if I take myself out of the truck, man, nothing's going to get done. What this allowed me to do though is change my mentality instead, I need you guys to run this route, or I need you guys to fix this project, or I need you guys to start this project without me. Because come Thursday morning, every single week from here until the end of time, I'm not going to be here. So how do you guys become more self-sufficient and start solving problems yourself?
That's
So
big.
now I allow them to start thinking like, hey, this ain't that hard. Shoot, give me a whole route.
Yeah.
How about you let me go and start all the projects? How about you let me manage this for you? And then on the flip side, it allowed me to get in front of another 60 to 80 people every single week who have now become more of my referral partners.
Yeah.
It has been night and day. If people are not currently doing any sort of networking, especially around your very central, location that you work, please, 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 your service areas are big for you, but how else do you better get your name out to your service areas? Meet with 60 to 80 of those professionals every single week. Allow them to get to know you as a professional, you as a man, you as a woman, you as a person, rather than just a thing that you're bringing to the table or a service that you're bringing to their yard. By all means, they'll buy from you. Just them alone will buy from you hand, foot, and mouth, let alone all of their referrals and the people they know. What they say is that one person knows another 1,000 people. So imagine if you have 60 of them. So now you have 60 times 1,000. So what can you do with 60,000 people now that know who you are, know your name, and they live damn near in the same area that you already service? It's night and day, man. Absolutely night and day.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's really good. One, you are empowering your employees. This makes them feel more part of the team, more invested in the company, actually valued, which they definitely are. It trains them even more. It's a huge weight off of your shoulders and a relief that you can now trust your employees to do things that you previously had never trusted them to do. It frees up your time. And so now you can be working on the business rather than in the business. And yeah, so I mean, that's super good advice. Just something that people can take away. Yeah, I'm sure there's that huge leap of faith there. This is your business, this is your baby. It can be tough sometimes to trust other people with its name and reputation, but if and when you do, as you should, if you're going to be growing this to 7 figures and beyond, doing that, empowering your employees to their capacity, it's definitely going to be a game changer. So yeah, that's awesome. That I appreciate you sharing that, man.
Now, I'll tell you very quickly, the biggest blessing that we have because we work outside is that anything that we do can be fixed, man. So you got to let go to let grow, right?
Yeah.
You can always fix it. I'll go back tomorrow and fix it, but let me get in front of some people first.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool, man. Well, I think that pretty much wraps everything up. I appreciate you joining me on the podcast here. We're definitely going to have you back once we dial this in a little bit more, but I really do. I really think it was a good podcast. I think it was great hearing from you. You definitely have a ton of insight. I've loved watching your journey over the years. You were just an incredible person. You're doing incredible things. And so it's definitely my honor to, one, call you friend, but two, get to talk to you, have you on this podcast, have you as a client of mine, and also be a client of yours. So, dude, thank you so much, Cameron. I appreciate you. And yeah, we'll definitely be talking a lot. So, man, thanks.
Matt, my man, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate you having us.